Lewis Hamilton didn't just leave a team when he left Mercedes, he left a way of life. And now, halfway through the 2025 season, that departure is starting to look like a brutal awakening. The car is different, the culture is different, and the results? Let's just say they're not what anyone expected from a 7-time world champion. But here's the real kicker. It's not just pundits, ex-drivers, or the Italian press pointing this out. It's coming from a 19-year-old rookie who grew up watching Hamilton dominate. Isack Hadjar, the Racing Bulls newcomer making waves this year, says something few have dared to. Maybe Hamilton's biggest enemy in red is the man he became in silver. In an interview with Mundo Deportivo, Hadjar didn't mince words. While he praised Hamilton as a genius behind the wheel and an idol from his childhood, he also drew a sharp line between a young driver's adaptability and a veteran's deeply ingrained habits. Having habits is the worst thing, Hadjar said. And when you've spent over a decade driving for Mercedes, with one engine philosophy, one chassis design language, and one way of working, those habits run deep. But what exactly are the old Mercedes instincts that might be haunting Hamilton at Ferrari? And how has a rookie like Hadjar managed to adjust so seamlessly while a legend is still searching for his footing? That's what we're breaking down right now. When Lewis Hamilton stepped into the SF25, he didn't just inherit a different car, he entered a fundamentally different driving philosophy. Ferrari's 2025 machine demands a new kind of trust, especially in corner entry and mid-corner balance. Unlike the Mercedes W14 and W15, which Hamilton helped develop into razor-sharp tools for late braking and rear-end stability, the SF25 requires earlier rotation, more neutral throttle modulation, and, critically, a looser rear that rewards drivers willing to dance on the edge. For a driver who's spent over a decade optimizing brake shapes, turn-in response, and ERS deployment the Mercedes way, these micro-adjustments are not minor. The telemetry shows a trend. Hamilton is consistently losing time in Sector 2, particularly in medium-speed chicanes and long-radius corners like Turn 8 in Suzuka and Turn 11 in Barcelona. These are zones where Ferrari's aero platform is most sensitive to throttle input and steering angle, and his traces suggest he's carrying the same braking markers and minimum speed targets from the W15, which simply don't suit the SF25's weight distribution and rake setup. Even his ERS deployment maps appear unchanged from his late Mercedes career, prioritizing top-speed exits rather than mid-corner power band stabilization, something Leclerc has adapted to more rapidly. The issue isn't raw speed. Hamilton still has the precision, the reflexes, the tactical nous. But Formula One isn't about instinct alone. It's about unlearning as quickly as you learn. And the cost of holding on to an outdated reference point, even subconsciously, is measured in tenths. For Hadjar, who switched from Formula 2 to a completely different chassis philosophy without baggage, the process was fluid. For Hamilton, the transformation requires not just physical adjustment, but a rewiring of the instincts that made him great in the first place. The raw data may tell us where Hamilton is losing time, but it doesn't tell us how deeply the struggle is cutting behind closed doors at Maranello. There's an emotional weight in every debrief, every headset exchange, every media scrum. This isn't just another season gone sideways. This is a 7-time world champion grappling with the reality that his legacy is being reshaped, not by retirement, but by reinvention. Inside Ferrari, the mood is delicate. There's immense respect for Hamilton, but also an unspoken tension. Charles Leclerc has grown up as Ferrari's golden son. And though their relationship is publicly warm, there's a competitive undercurrent neither man can ignore. When Leclerc outqualifies Hamilton, which has happened more often than not this season, it's not just about grid position. It reaffirms to the team that Leclerc understands the car in ways Hamilton still doesn't. And Hamilton knows that. You can hear it in his radio calls, less commanding, more questioning. You can see it in the post-race footage, the longer stares at telemetry screens, the subtle dejection behind sunglasses. And then there's the psychological toll of change itself. Mercedes was more than a team to Hamilton. It was an ecosystem tailored to his strengths, a comfort zone built over 14 years. Ferrari is more chaotic, more emotionally charged, and less structured around any one driver. For someone like Isack Hadjar, change is the norm. For Hamilton, it's a battlefield against muscle memory. This is no longer about whether he still has it. That's not in doubt. It's about whether he can let go of everything that once made him unbeatable in order to become competitive again. In a car, in a culture, and in a championship that have all moved on from the Hamilton era he once defined. When Lewis Hamilton signed with Ferrari, the unspoken hope wasn't just podiums, it was one last shot at title number 8. But as the 2025 season unfolds, that dream is slipping further from reach. Not because of one catastrophic failure, but through a quiet erosion of points. After 9 rounds, Hamilton sits 6th in the Drivers' Championship, trailing not just Verstappen and Norris, but also teammate Charles Leclerc, who has nearly doubled his podium count. Ferrari's constructors' tally has taken a hit too. With Red Bull recovering from early season inconsistencies and McLaren rising fast, Ferrari needed both drivers firing in tandem, but only one has consistently delivered. On paper, the delta between Hamilton and Leclerc is about 17 points. But the context matters more than the number. Leclerc has scored consistently in the top 5, while Hamilton's results have ranged from anonymous 6th-place finishes to missed opportunities caused by strategy misalignment and setup discomfort. Even in Canada, where the SF25 had the potential for a front-row lockout, Hamilton qualified behind both McLarens and barely held off Alonso in the race. Mathematically, Hamilton still has time to claw back, especially with bonus points for sprint races and potential chaos at street circuits like Singapore and Las Vegas. But every round, without a breakthrough, narrows the path. The gap isn't just to the leaders, it's to his own team. And when the internal balance tips too far, the car development, strategic priority, and even garage dynamics can follow suit, creating a championship spiral that no amount of experience can undo. If this chapter of Hamilton's career feels eerily familiar, it's because Formula One has seen this story before. The legendary driver trading comfort for legacy, only to find that greatness in red comes at a cost. Michael Schumacher's early years at Ferrari were no fairy tale. The cars were unreliable, the culture fragmented, and it took years and not months before he transformed the team into a title-winning machine. But what made Schumacher's reinvention work was total immersion. He redefined Ferrari from the inside out, reshaping its technical teams, pushing tyre development, and forging a bond so strong it became the blueprint for modern F1 dynasties. Sebastian Vettel tried to follow that path too, moving from Red Bull to Ferrari in search of legacy. His story was more turbulent. 4 seasons of near misses, emotional highs, and eventual burnout as the Scuderia slipped into internal politics, and Leclerc's rise disrupted team harmony. Hamilton now walks a tightrope between those two legacies. Like Schumacher, he arrived with a mission: to elevate Ferrari and redefine his place in history. But like Vettel, he's encountering a car that resists his style, a team still unsure how to balance two elite drivers, and a championship that's evolving faster than any one man can control. The difference? Hamilton isn't 29 or 31, he's 40. The margin for reinvention is slimmer, the patience thinner. And unlike Schumacher, who came to a Ferrari desperate for transformation, Hamilton entered a team already emotionally invested in another talisman, Leclerc. That means every race isn't just a competition against the field, it's a silent audition for ownership of Ferrari's future. The longer he lingers in the shadows of his teammate, the more the myth of Hamilton the Redeemer gives way to something far more sobering, Hamilton the outsider, trying to rewrite a legend that may no longer belong to him. The next phase of this season could define more than just Hamilton's 2025 campaign. It could determine whether his Ferrari project ever truly takes flight. With upgrades coming to the SF25 ahead of Silverstone, expectations are building. But upgrades only widen the gap if one driver extracts their full potential and the other doesn't. And that's the looming threat. If Leclerc continues to adapt faster, his feedback will increasingly shape the car's evolution, leaving Hamilton in a machine tuned for someone else's instincts. Ferrari won't admit it, but they're already approaching a fork in the road. Do they double down on the driver delivering now, or wait for a legend to recalibrate on his own timeline? Meanwhile, McLaren and Red Bull are in full stride. Norris looks more confident than ever, and Verstappen, despite a few uncharacteristic wobbles, remains the measuring stick. The midfield is tightening too. Racing Bulls and Aston Martin are regularly poaching points, making every Q2 exit or strategic misstep more costly. For Hamilton, the opportunity window is shrinking. Street circuits like Singapore and high downforce venues like Zandvoort could favour his smoother driving style, but only if he unlearns the braking cues and torque assumptions that worked in a Mercedes. The question isn't whether he still has the talent, it's whether the future of Ferrari will be built around him, or whether it's already slipping quietly into the hands of a younger man. Because in Formula One, legacy buys you headlines, but only performance earns you development priority. Regardless of how the rest of the 2025 season unfolds, this chapter will permanently reshape Lewis Hamilton's legacy, not as a blemish, but as a reckoning. The move to Ferrari was never just about winning races, it was about rewriting the story of a driver who had conquered everything, only to risk it all for something more poetic. But poetry, as it turns out, doesn't guarantee podiums. If Hamilton adapts, finds synergy with the SF25 and reasserts himself as a frontrunner, it will be hailed as one of the great second acts in Formula One history. Proof that even at 40, greatness can evolve. But if this struggle continues, the narrative may harden into something more sobering, that the sport moved on faster than he expected, and that even the most brilliant instincts can become outdated in the crucible of modern F1. For Ferrari, the implications are equally profound. Their handling of Hamilton's transition, how they manage driver parity, car development, and internal dynamics will signal whether they're still chasing legacy through nostalgia or finally ready to commit to a new generation. Because while the fans may adore the sight of Hamilton in red, the stopwatch has no sentiment. And in the relentless forward-only world of Formula One, reputations aren't protected. They're earned every weekend, every sector, every corner. The question Ferrari and Hamilton both face now is simple. Can they build something enduring together, or was this always destined to be a beautiful, impossible idea?